So, Ryden, can you join us now?
I'm coming. I'm coming.
There she is. There she is. So, I want to let you know just a little bit about this distinguished person who put this program together today, along with her coordinates of Darcy Jude, Carolyn Cooley, Susan Brody, and many others on that public policy committee. Sue is a former legislator in the Colorado House of Representatives. She was elected to represent District 36 in 2008 and served for 8 years. During that time, she distinguished herself as a champion of veterans, teachers, and small business. She chaired the State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee and passed the bill to organize the partnership between Colorado APEX or APEX Accelerator and the state of Colorado. Sue, we're going to turn it over to you now.
Thank you, Joan. Thank you, Joan, so much. And thanks also to Gemma for such a moving tribute and telling us of the legacy that has been left. I'm hoping that we will continue to study that issue and bring more healing. And let me say today how pleased I am to have Darcy Jude joining our leadership team. She's going to be our next public policy co-director, and she'll be nominated and take office in July. And she has already done yeoman's work on this year's Public Policy Day. And I know we're both grateful for the other members of the committee, including the Honorable Betty Boyd, Diane Fuchs, the Honorable Nicole Johnston, Marcy Young, Sally Mathewson, Debbie Parchetta, Kelly Perez, the Honorable Nancy Todd, the Honorable Suzanne Williams, and Gail Wilson, along with our branch public policy chairs, Betty Greiner, Jane Miller, Sandra Munger, and Faye Schrader. And special thanks go to our tech team of Carolyn Cooley and Susan Brody for facilitating our meeting today. If we have any elected officials in the audience, please let us know in the Q&A. We'd love to be able to introduce you. And welcome and thank you for taking time to be with us today. We hope everyone will leave with new ideas, new energy, and new inspiration to continue the important work of AAUW. As your public policy co-director, I'm honored to serve you in our advocacy for AAUW's priorities. Many of you have heard my story before. My interest in public policy goes way back, but my active involvement didn't begin until 2008. I was literally minding my own business when I was recruited to run for office. I'd been in business for over 30 years and I was hardly prepared for life under the gold dome. Long story short, with the support of friends, family, and community, I ran and I won. And I served in the Colorado legislature for 8 years. And during my tenure, my caucus elected me to various leadership positions, ending with my job as the majority whip. In other words, herding cats. But the most rewarding part of the job was passing bills that helped people lead better, healthier lives. And especially, I was happy with the work we were able to do for our women veterans. So my message to you is, if I could do it, so can you. So we have an exciting agenda today, and it starts with our legislative update. So let the slideshow begin. First, we're going to review 2023. Then we're going to preview 2024. We're going to refresh you on working with the legislature. And then we're going to renew our call to action. So while there were no statewide elections in 2023, there were important municipal and school board elections all around the state that saw quite a bit of change locally, and you may have been in one of those cities or towns where that happened. But we did have 2 ballot measures. Please change the slide. There we go. So AAUW supported Proposition II, which expanded our free preschool program, and that passed by a large margin. Unfortunately, Proposition HH, which we also supported, failed by an equally large margin. It had too many parts and pieces for many voters, but we are seeing some of those parts and pieces coming back in legislation this session, so we'll be watching those for you. Some may have to go to the ballot for approval, so we'll be letting you know about those as well. Next slide. So we support public education, economic empowerment, and the rights of all people. And for our recap of 2023 and preview of 2024, I am happily joined again this year by the Honorable Betty Boyd. So Betty, turn on your camera and let me introduce you. Betty probably would have served the full 16 years in the legislature had she not left the House 2 years early to fill a vacancy in the Senate. She served the full 8 years there, ending as Senate President pro tem. Her passion has long been health and human services, and she passed numerous bills that have helped make Colorado a healthier place to live, especially for women. Betty has been especially active representing AAUW in the Coalition for Reproductive Health Issues. So Betty, how did we do in 2023? And the next slide.
Thank you, Sue. Actually, 2023 was quite a successful year for us. As you can see on the screen, we actively supported 44 bills in the legislature. And of those 44, 37 were passed and signed by the governor. 2 died on the calendar. And 5 were PI'd. PI'd is postponed indefinitely, which is a nice way of saying killed. And that happens in committees. Those 44 bills, 12 were dealing with pay equity and economic empowerment, 7 with gun safety, 5 with K-12 education or teachers, 5 with reproductive health care, and it was a good year for reproductive health in the Colorado legislature. 3 dealt with behavioral health, and 2 were dealing with Title IX issues or harassment. So next slide, please. Of the priority bills, we had just normal support as opposed to active support. Active support means we really work hard on those issues. Of those 40, 33 passed and were signed by the governor, and 7 were PI'd. We had active opposition to 15 bills, and all were PI'd, as well as the 2 bills that we had straight opposition to. So I'd say that was pretty successful on the part of AAUW. Next slide, please. Our priorities for this year, for the 2024 session, are economic empowerment, education equity, health and safety. Next slide, please. Also, education, reproductive health, behavioral health, equal pay and anti-ageism, Title IX protections, gun safety, and human trafficking prevention. It's a pretty large agenda, and it doesn't mean we prioritize every bill within those areas, but we have historically done a pretty good job of covering the really important bills in each of those areas. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. That's going backwards. Thank you. So we have already met as a public policy committee and determined are priority bills based on what has been introduced so far. This process will continue throughout the session as more bills are introduced. But we meet and we have taken positions on the bills that you see dealing with active support for education equity. I don't think I need to go through all of the bills and talk about what they do. You can generally tell from the titles. The Purple Star School program is an interesting one, and that is a particular program for children of veterans who and an opportunity for education for those children. Next slide, please. And these are the health and safety bills that we are currently involved with. The implementing of fertility coverage for health plans, House Bill 1025, is one that I find particularly interesting, and it certainly affects many women. Currently, many health plans will not cover fertility treatments, and this would make a significant difference for women or families who are using fertility assistance. Let's see. Gender affirming healthcare. We are certainly very mindful and caring of people of all genders and want to be sure that their healthcare needs are met as well. And just mentioning workplace violence, 1066, workplace violence in healthcare settings. If you've been reading the paper, this is somehow mushroomed into a really large article. Too often, we're hearing about healthcare settings, be it abortion clinics, which have always had that issue, but even into hospital emergency rooms these days. So this is something that we will be actively supporting. Okay, next slide, please. These are, again, more health and safety bills. Representative Ryden just told us in conversation that Senate Bill 42, sickle cell disease community outreach, the sponsor read our testimony in committee as the bill was passing. So that tells you that we can make a difference, and our advocacy is wide. Active opposition. That right now, this is the only bill that we have active opposition to. It would require information about abortion pill reversal to be available from the state with language written by the state. This is a bill that has failed numerous times, and the sponsor is back. So we again will be actively opposing this bill. Next slide, please. Bills on economic empowerment. We have active support on several of these bills. You see the social work licensure compact. There are several professional licensure compact bills coming this year, particularly in the healthcare area. And these bills are important because often as people from other states come to Colorado to work and to exercise their profession, they have problems because of the different qualifications. So with these compacts, people coming from other states with which who are in that compact are grandfathered in and are able to practice in the state of Colorado. So there are several of those that are very important. Workplace suicide prevention education is important. We're noting that, again, more and more suicide is happening in the workplace. The House Bill 1084, repeal and reenact the earned income tax credit increase. That increase was passed in the special session this summer. and for any number of reasons that had to be repealed and reenacted. And that has been done. The governor has signed this. This is the first bill the governor has signed this year. Next slide, please. More economic empowerment bills. There's a couple of more compact bills. We're supporting state funding for senior services and a refundable income tax credit for para retirees. The racial equity study, I think, will be an important study to have real data available. And very often bills relating to para affect many of our members in AUW because most teachers and legislators and public employees are members of para. Next slide, please. At this point, we are supporting very actively supporting proposition. It's ballot measure 89. It will have a different number once it gets on the ballot. But this measure will guarantee reproductive rights in the Colorado Constitution. We currently in Colorado have a very strong statutory protection for abortion rights and reproductive rights. However, statutory rights can be changed by the legislature pretty quickly. And this is an attempt to enshrine in the Colorado Constitution reproductive rights for all people, including abortion care with no restrictions, and ending the prohibition on abortion coverage for abortion care, insurance coverage for state and local employees. And it also ends the prohibition on using Medicaid insurance for abortion care. It's a high priority for AAUW. Today, I wish we were together face to face to be able to get all of your signatures on the petition that I'm carrying. And I would invite you, if you're interested in also carrying a petition in your part of the state, I would love to share with you the information on how you can get involved. Today, not only do we need a required number of signatures, about 185,000 signatures, but we also need to have 2% of the voters in each Senate district signing. So that makes it a little bit more difficult. We have to be sure that that we're covered and the signatures are truly from across the state. So you can contact me. I'll put my email in the chat and I can forward you some information about this if you're interested. Next slide. Okay, I guess that's my time to exit, and it's time to turn this back to Sue.
Thanks, Betty, and thanks for such a great explanation of all the bills. And do keep in mind, we're just in the first few weeks of session, so more bills will be showing up, and we will be having our list of bills that we're supporting and opposing on the AAUW Colorado website. So thanks to Scott Brown for helping us with that, but we hope to post a new list every week or so on the bills that have come up. We will probably see 600 or 700 bills go through the legislature this year. Hopefully we will not have to be involved in all of them, but there are a lot that really do touch on our priorities. So we're watching out for those. And now it's time to talk about how everyone can be involved in our advocacy. So the Colorado General Assembly website is really a pretty good website. It has a lot of information in it, and you just have to go to ledge.colorado.gov or just Google Colorado Legislature, and on the homepage you'll see a number of icons to click on. So let's change the slide to finding your legislator. You can find your legislator just by entering your address. Next slide. You can watch or listen Just by clicking on that button, you can watch the Senate and House floor proceedings. You can listen to the committee hearings, and you can even go back and listen to the recorded sessions if you miss one. Next slide. You can also find a bill. If you know the number, the title, the sponsor, or just the key words, you can find a bill that you might be looking for. And there are other ways to find bills as well. So Betty, tell us about the useful tools that are there.
Oh, yes. I can't tell you how many times a day I end up going to this website. Each day you can there's a daily calendar that tells you what is happening in each of the houses. And in all these cases, there's a House calendar and a Senate calendar, and the same for the other two. The daily calendar tells you what bills are up in the full House, which are scheduled for second and third reading. It tells you what the committee hearings are and what they are hearing that day, and also the floor debate. You can listen to the floor debate on the calendar. This is the daily calendar. There's also a calendar that reaches out into the future so that you can plan ahead and know what's coming up in some future days, often at least a couple of weeks out. The daily journal are the minutes of the proceedings. So this is where you go to find out how your legislator voted on particular bills, that the vote totals are printed in the journal. And it also includes some committee votes, but most importantly, the floor votes, which are the permanent record of how a legislator votes. And the status sheets. This is a valuable tool. It lists all of the bills that are introduced in their respective houses, and it tells you not only their current status in the legislative process, but it records each step very briefly, however, but you can see where it has been before it's gotten to where it is today. So you can see what's still alive, and follow the bills that you're interested in. As I said, very valuable. Next slide. And other resources that you can find on this site are information about the budget, about the various committees and who serves on the committees. You can read Colorado Revised Statutes, which is, a whole bookshelf of our statutes, but it's a whole lot easier to access it this way. You can read about state agencies and audits and publications from the state. So it's just an amazing tool. Oh, back to Sue.
Well, thank you, Betty. Again, you can see that Betty spent some time at the Capitol and has spent some time on the website. It really is something that you should think about doing. Just go there and wander around and see what you see and see what you can find out. Like I say, it's pretty intuitive, and there's a lot of transparency and accountability there. So I encourage everyone to check it out and see what's happening in our legislature. And now it's time for action. So some tips on how to engage with your legislator. You can make an initial contact to introduce yourself in AAUW. You can call their office. You can email them. Often during the off season, which is between May and January, it's easier for them to find time to see you. But take a couple friends and meet with your legislators. You can offer to testify on bills in your area of expertise and any of the AAUW bills. The legislators really, really do want to hear personal stories, and it's often those personal stories that will change a vote or will get you more support. So I can't stress enough how important that is. If you have an issue that you feel strongly about and you have a story, you need to offer to testify, and you can do that in person. You can do that remotely during the committee hearing. and you can send in written testimony. So we really encourage you to get active and do that. And any of our AAUW bills, you can certainly say you're a member of AAUW and talk about what we're supporting or opposing. So you can also visit campaign websites to find out more about your legislator, where they stand on issues, what issues are important to them. You may have a legislator that you don't think is very supportive of AAUW, but once you look, you might see some issues that they really are supportive of that we share in common. So I encourage you to do that as well. You should definitely attend the town halls. Most of them are being done virtually. Some of them are in person. And in fact, our Aurora delegation's town hall is going to be going on in about half an hour on Zoom. So I'm afraid our Aurora delegation, except for Senator Buckner, will probably not be here today, but we will encourage them to watch the video afterwards. You can volunteer in a Capitol office, and they love to have volunteers. You answer phones, you take messages, you help them with all kinds of different issues. You do research. So think about doing that. You could also volunteer on a campaign. And you can respond to AAUW federal and state action alerts. And we are actually going to be able to soon have our own state action alerts. The national office is working on that right now. So we can send you the 2-minute action alert that you can just hit the button and send in your testimony. And then there is going to be a lobby day on March 12th that's being organized by the Women's Foundation of Colorado. And we are looking at getting a large group of AAUW members to go down to the Capitol on March 12th. So mark your calendar. We would hang out in the lobby and call for our legislators to come out and talk to us. And we will probably host a little breakfast in the morning. So really mark your calendar now for March 12th, because we will be asking you to join us for Lobby Day. And next slide. That may be the end.
It
I think
is.
it is. So
That's
thank you
it.
all. Yeah, let's I don't know if we have any time for questions or if anyone has posted any questions. If not, we can move on. But if we have any questions, Darcy.
Am I on?
You're on.
Okay, great. We actually don't, I have a couple of questions. We don't have time for questions, but I've copied the questions down so we can answer them by text.
Okay, good. Thank you so much. So that wraps up our part of this program.